You're listening to The Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome. This is Curtis May here. Welcome to another episode of The Practical Wealth Show. I'm excited to welcome to the show Mr. Zack Booth. Zack is an expert real estate investor and coach. And his key focus is teaching investors how to find massively discounted properties in any market. And so let me give you a little background about Zack. And he's going to tell you more about his story, but I'm just going to kind of set it up for him. So a few years ago, Jack was a window cleaner. Okay. And he has, so if you look at YouTube, you can find his window cleaning tutorials on YouTube with 1 million views. However, Jack he's always dreamt of being a real estate investor. So taking a leap of faith, hear that, he walked away from window cleaning within a handful of years. He was making over $1 million a year from real estate investing. Okay, so this for y'all wanted that your real estate is your asset class of choice. This episode is for you. And so with his successful business, real estate business, he now spends his time helping others see how simple it is to make money. Zack is here today to share his inside secrets to finding massively discounted properties regardless of your experience level. Welcome to the show. Tell him what I didn't tell him.
Thank you so much for having me. I am Zack Booth. Awesome. I'm super excited to dive into this and add a ton of value to all of you that are listening.
What took you think, from a structure? So you left your business.
Yeah. And
then you were, everybody sucks at first, but I want you to tell them about the suck because you got to learn to enjoy the suck. Right. And I heard somebody say one time, from a struggling real estate investor to a thriving real estate investor. Tell us a little about your journey.
That's funny because I always tell everyone you got to embrace the suck sometimes.
Yes. Embrace is the right word.
Embrace. Yeah. Love it. Well, you're
not going to enjoy it.
Right. There's no enjoying, the hard moments and the moments when you're crying and frustrated that you can't figure things out. I remember there were so many struggles, window cleaner. I remember one night I had four employees worth of work to do every single week. And I had one employee that talked to two other employees that I had into leaving the company to go work for him. And I remember just being so upset because I was paying him so much money and I thought he was, great. There's just been so many struggles in this path to success. And I don't say this to, scare anybody, but yes, there's a lot of hard work that's required. Good things don't come on accident. Good things don't come to people that sit around. It's not a luck thing. And a lot of people say, oh, if I could just come up with an idea. It's like, no, it's not an idea. Right. It's hard work. It's implementing and taking action on an idea. That's what makes success. Well, my story comes, going from window cleaning to becoming a successful real estate investor. A lot of people think, oh, he must have made a lot of money so he could invest in real estate. Oh, he must have been really successful. Well, guess what? I wasn't. I wasn't at all. And I was so out of money. I was paycheck to paycheck. I was in credit card debt. I had struggled. My wife's an immigrant from Brazil, so she couldn't really work when we were first married, and I was paying for both of us, and it was really a struggle. I actually joke with my wife all the time that I married her for her looks, and she married me for my money because we joke about that because she's very attractive, but I was very, very broke. Right? We definitely got married for love, and that struggle was real. And I was working extremely hard trying to grow this cleaning business. And from the outside looking in, it looked like I was successful, right? I mean, I had millions of views on a YouTube channel. I had 3 trucks, up to 13 employees by the time I sold it. From the outside looking in, I had a great business, but I was struggling. I remember one of the big things that pushed me over the edge was when my son was born. And I remember the most magical moment of my life, the most beautiful moment of my life. I couldn't help but be worried and focused on how I was going to pay the medical bills. I wasn't sitting there enjoying the moment. I was stressed, panicking. And how I don't want to swear, but how horrible is it? Right? How terrible to have the most beautiful moment of your life and you're worried about money.
Yeah.
And I knew something had to change. I couldn't live like that forever. I had to give a better life to my family.
Yeah. One of the things I find with entrepreneurs, and sometimes I'll struggle with this, is being present, like in the moment, because you're always worrying about, is this working? Is this deal going to close? That kind of stuff. And so that's when you can get over that. You really have a peace of mind, which is really, I tell you, what you should be working for.
Well, I think a lot of it too is a lot of entrepreneurs never really find that true success, that true level of financial freedom, because I am at that point now. I do have freedom financially. I was able to walk into the bank and pay off $50,000 worth of debt with one check. I was able to, pay off those debts, and I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in reserves. So if I quit making money one day, I'm good for years. I don't have, like I said, I've paid off debts. I get to travel with my family now. I get to, go to Alaska, and because I love being outside and fish for salmon and like have all these cool adventures. I took my wife to Hawaii, and I travel with my kids. And we spent a month in Brazil, over last Christmas.
I'm jealous. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Because wealth is function of time. Right. So
it's a combination.
It's a combination, right? You have to, you got to have the money, but you bought your life back. And so you don't have to work for money because you've got the reserves, you've got the cash flow. And tell them a little bit about the business. So are you, like buying and holding? Are you wholesaling, flipping, or a combination thereof? Tell them about your real estate business.
Yeah. So one word answer is I do mostly wholesaling. Okay. So a lot of people that don't necessarily know what that is, like how do you go from a broke window cleaner to being successful in real estate investing? Because most people think you need a lot of money, or you need someone that has money, can lend you. You need a lot of debt. You need a lot of, you need to take big risks to make a lot of money in real estate. And all that is not true at all, right? Yes, you could take that path, but I wanted my cake and I wanted to eat it too, right? I wanted financial freedom and I wanted time freedom.
Right.
And so while I was washing windows, I was listening to podcasts and I was listening to books, and I was hungry for a change, right? Because the pain was big enough that I was now looking for new avenues to make money.
Yeah.
And I heard real estate was awesome. I heard it was a great way to make money. And it was interesting to me. So I started learning. I flipped a house, used some private money, and it was a complete failure. And I had some struggles along the way. I ended up buying a duplex and living in one side, got some debt to do that. And that was really good. But the banks wouldn't give me more money, right? I couldn't get more money. I didn't have down payment money. I couldn't do any more deals. And I was like, okay, well, that was great. I would love to do more of that, but how? I can't. So I just started researching and learning, and I learned about real estate wholesaling. So for those who don't know what that is, that's essentially where you have a property at a massive discount and you sell it to someone else before you ever close on it, or you sell the rights to the purchase contract, right? So it's a way that you can flip properties without ever having to own them. You're essentially flipping that real estate purchase contract, if that makes sense. And so I started learning about this, and I started dabbling, and I started having zero success, but I started spending some money on marketing and trying to figure things out. And then I ended up paying a mentor $10,000 to teach me how to do it. And of course I didn't have the money, put most of it on a credit card, and what I could do to make payments on it, just whatever I had to do. And I never did a deal. Not one.
Okay. That story was going to start from there. Okay.
Yeah, you thought, you're like, oh yeah. Then I took off and everything was wonderful, right? It's like, dang, but I learned a lot of things. I learned about what not to get in a mentor. I learned some expensive mistakes, and I tried to do some online stuff. I signed a 12-month contract for $30,000 to get me leads. Not only did I not do a deal, I never got a lead from that $30,000.
Oh my goodness.
So when I said I was able to eventually go in and pay off all this debt, you can't imagine the kind of burden that relieved. But I wanted this bad, and I believed that it existed. But after I got burned, in my opinion, by that mentor, I had kind of given up hope. I thought maybe these gurus were just selling a dream. They were just selling a hope that you could be successful. And, but it didn't really exist, that people don't sell houses at massive discounts. And then something interesting happened a few years later. I was washing windows for a very wealthy gentleman, and I found out he was a real estate developer. He had multi-million-dollar projects, a couple of them going with his own money, just very, very wealthy. Found out he'd retired in his late 20s from being a civil engineer to be a full-time real estate developer. And of course, I was very interested and tried to understand all I could in a 2-hour conversation or so. At the end of that 2-hour conversation, I said, wow, that's wonderful. I would love to learn how to do that. I would love to pick up at least 2 rentals this year. Right? He says, oh, that's very convenient. I've got 2 rentals. The tenants haven't paid me 4 months because my property manager bailed. I don't have time. They've got deferred maintenance. I just don't want to deal with them. Will you buy them? I said, sure. How much? He said, $500,000. So I don't have $500,000. Like, I can't get debt for I'm in credit card debt,
Right.
like, how do I do that? And he's like, well, I'll be the bank. How much do you got to put down? I was like, none. He's like, well, if you can come up with a couple $1,000, I'll deed them over to you. You make payments to me. And I remember being so terrified. And he's like, I'll give them to you for a very good deal. And I was like, okay, great. We need to inspect and find out what they rent for. I was so terrified, right? It's like I had like really wanted to make that a possibility to start doing some real estate deals. But when the opportunity was in front of me, I was like trying to talk him out of it. I was like, well, we need a state approved form, right? Where we need an actual contract. Like, it's like, no, we can just write it on a piece of white paper, what we agree to. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
right. We want to do this. Wait, right.
Oh crap. Careful what you ask for.
Right. That is funny.
And, but anyways, I got these properties under contract, contacted an agent, found out that I was getting them at a massive discount, like over $100,000 in equity after listing them. And I was like, wow. So I ended up keeping them as a rental for about 1.5 years, both of them. And then I ended up selling them both for over 6 figures profit. But as soon as I put those under contract, I realized what I had in my hands. I realized the massive discount that I got those for. And I was like, wow, I'm going to make a lot of money off of this. And he knew more than me. This was, I was helping him, I'm going to make a ton of money. It was a convenience factor for him. He liked me. It worked out great for both of us. And that was the other issue. It's like, okay, how are you buying 50 cents on the dollar? Are you taking advantage of other people? Like morally, it didn't sit well with me. But after that experience, it opened my eyes to the potential. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started doing my research again. I was like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't just a fake, thing that gurus sell.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started researching and then I ended up finding a new mentor. But this new mentor, instead of just overloading me with information, he gave me action steps to find sellers that would sell at massive discounts. So I could essentially have a pawn shop for houses, right? I jumped in, paid $9,000 for that course and, started doing deals. 1.5 months later, I did my first deal with them. I put a property under contract for 80, sold it for 90. I made $10,000 assigning the purchase contract. And it was off to the races for a few months.
Okay.
And then I hit it. And then I started making some money. I started paying some of my debts down. I started having some breathing room. I was able to buy some food and I was like, okay, this is real. I had walked away from my
food
window.
Is good. Yes.
Yeah. I was walking away from my window cleaning business. And guys, this was 2017. It's 2020 now.
This is recent, right?
This is recent. Wait,
you know what? I want to ask you something because one of the things that you said, before I forget to go back over this, what you realized was that you were not, and I think because a lot of people don't get wholesaling, you weren't taking advantage of him. You helped him solve a problem. I think that is a really good point. Can you put that out? I want to talk about that for a second because I think half of it is how you feel about what you do.
Yeah. So when I said I wanted to buy 2 rentals, he's like, oh, that's convenient. He knew he was way more intelligent than me, especially with real estate. He's making millions upon millions of dollars, right? Doing real estate investing. And he's like, oh, I just don't want to deal with them. He knew that he could go in and do the work, right? Find the team to go in and evict them, pay his attorney. I mean, he could have made 10 calls and he'd have been done, right? But he didn't want to. Plus he wanted to hook me up. Right. I built a relationship with him.
Right.
It was a win for him. It was a win for me. Right. The funny thing is the next deal I did, same thing. It was a real estate investor. He's like, the situation of the second deal was that I made 10 grand on was he needed to sell his house because it was the last property he owned with his previous partner. He had a partnership that had gone south. Mm-hmm. They had owned over 100 rentals at one time, and it was their very last property they held together. And he's like, dude, we would just like to get rid of it. They got my marketing, got my postcard. They said, we'd love to just sell it, we know you need to make a profit, right? I made that clear. And he said, okay, well, we'll take 80,000. I had no idea if that was a low enough price. I wasn't sure, but then I sent it out to my buyers and someone wanted it for 90. Right. My first 2 deals, they were way more experienced than me. Way more
but you could do the lead work. You had the that saved them trouble, which goes back to your marketing. But I want to come back to the marketing. I think that's what people miss, but I want you to continue. I didn't mean to take you off track. I just thought that was a really good point.
No, I love it. Thank you for bringing it back and making that clear. So yeah, so I really, when I say I was off to the races, I was still in the red, right? I wasn't making a lot of money. I was still testing and trying to find more sellers. Like that was, I realized, the hardest part, right? But I had proof of concept. I was like, oh, wow, I'm smart enough to do this actually. Surprise, right? Like I was like, wow, I can do this, and like, this is real. Like I can see a path to success. Like you don't have to be born with money. You don't have to have money to become wealthy. And so I started learning, started doing deals. And then I was doing deals off of people that were filing evictions and people that were getting code violations from the city. So I was pulling those lists. They're public records. If you want to learn how to do this, you can usually get it from your county courthouse or your county or your city buildings. You just got to find out where they hold those records, and most of them are public. So I was pulling those and then reaching out to these people to see if they'd want to sell with a postcard. I was getting some leads here and there, but it was weird because what happened was shortly after I started doing a couple deals, I had that first 7 months, 8 months, I did about $100,000 in income and spent like $5,000 on marketing. Wow. So I was like rolling in cash, like more like, maybe for some that's not, but I was. For me, like I'd never touched that much money, Right. I walked into the bank, paid $50,000 off in debt. I'm like, yes, like it's gone. That burden's lifted. We planned a trip to go to Brazil for a month. It was awesome. But at the end of that year, I went like a month without a lead. And what happened was those 2 lists that I was getting all my deals from, they became available on a state website. So everyone could get that list really easy. You didn't have to go to the city building anymore. Yeah. And everyone started marketing to it. And I was like, crap, maybe it was just a fluke thing. Maybe I'm done. Maybe I can't do this. Right. And I learned that I had to find a new way to find people and find people without competition, find a way that I could create a marketing channel that can't be taken from me. I have to control it. There's no competition. It's hard for people to get started with. And I learned about something called driving for dollars, where you literally drive around, find the ugly houses in your market and reach out to them, right? And see if they want to sell. Very simple process. And we started that. And that next 12 months, we did just shy of $500,000 in income just from driving from dollars. So then I went from, 6 figures in the first like 8 months to almost $500,000 in the next 12. And I was a broke window cleaner. Right. And like I tell people this story, not to brag or to stroke my ego, but because I believe that I can help others, right? I believe that it's my responsibility now to give back, right? That I can help other people avoid those pains of not being able to pay your bills or not knowing how to get that financial structure, that financial freedom in your life. I did that $500,000. And then at the end of that year, I wanted to hit $1 million. I wanted to go for the next step, but I honestly had no idea how to do that, right? I had no idea to get to that next level. And so every opportunity I could, I was reading and researching goals. And I had a good friend of mine invite me to do a journal called Living Your Best Year Ever by Darren Hardy. In that first 100 pages, you create 3 big goals for the year. And one of those, big goals was to do $1 million the following year. And the cool thing in that book, in that first 100 pages, it tells you the importance of giving away what you want to receive. So I had to give away $1 million, and I had no idea how to do that. And especially because I didn't have $1 million to give away. Right.
It should be interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm like trying to take this thing serious, but it's like, wow, give away $1 million. Like, how do you do that? And I was like, you know what? I could teach other wholesalers how to find these properties at massive discounts. I mean, I made $500,000 the first year with this marketing channel. Like, I put this in 10 other investors' hands, like, boom, $1 million guaranteed, like, done. Like, that's done. $1 million. So I found 10 people, started teaching them my marketing channel while I was building it. And the coolest thing ever happened. The more I taught, the more I learned. The more I taught, the more questions that I got asked that I had never even thought of. And I started adjusting and tweaking my marketing channel at the same time I was helping them.
Yeah.
That year we did $1.2 million in my business. But even better than that, my students started doing crazy deals. One of my first students did $113,000 on his first deal.
Wow.
$113,000 wholesale deal. I had another student that his first 2 deals, he made 50 grand. I mean, I had students just, going from having a job that they didn't necessarily love to being able to quit their job and having financial freedom, right? And not only was I able to hit that goal, but more than anything, I found something so fulfilling, right? Like doing your first deal, like wanting to jump up and down and scream, but like hold the check in the air. You're just like, wow, what but that starts to wear off. Right. The more deals you do, that excitement goes away. With my students though, every time they do their first deal and I help them get their first deal and they get to have that type of freedom and pay off debts and know that they can support their families, I get that same excitement and same joy every time.
Yeah.
There's something called a helper's high, and it is real. It exists, and I get it every time. And so for me, not only did I hit my goal and have financial freedom, and I've been able to build a team, I now have a passion. I now have something that I do and I live for, and that's helping other people have the same financial success that I've had.
I want to come back to a conversation. I thought about exit strategy, but that's kind of what led you into the coaching and mentoring business, as how to give. Because here's the thing, Jim Rohn always says, you want to get good at something, practice, study, and teach, right? And it's funny because as you said this, I'm recording this at the end, last day of August, and I'm about to start a challenge for some of my clients that are in business to make between September 1st. Some of them are challenging to make 50,000, some of them 100 between now and the end of the year. But I've had to think about how I'm going to coach them to do that, how I'm going to hold them accountable. And then I've got a goal that's probably 4 times their goal. Because I first thought about it for me, right? But then it's like, how can I help some other people do this? And I think I'm going to experience the same thing that you just said, so
100%.
Yeah, 100%. You got to teach it because it's making me think through, well, what do I do? Because there's certain things you do that it's like unconscious. So you don't think about why you do it. And then you've got to break it down to show it to somebody else. And it's like I studied Russell Brunson. He said when he started teaching wrestling and he had to break down the moves to show young players, it made him a better wrestler. That's pretty cool. So would you say that teaching makes you a better investor?
Oh, 100%. 100%. All of my one-on-one clients, my higher end clients, one of my first calls is always about giving back and teaching other people through social media platforms, because it sharpens your tools, but also builds a network too. It builds a network of other people that could potentially work with you and for you. But I believe that there's a universal law. You can call it karma. You can call it God's law. You can call it golden rule. You call it whatever you want. You get what you give, right? You reap what you sow. I mean, it's in every religion. It's in every, guru's teachings, right? That you have to give to receive. So it's just kind of interesting that the way we learn, the way we retain information, it's wired around that. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
So let me ask you I want to go a little bit tactical for a second. So let's start with because people want to, I want to come away with some. Well, actually, all of it's been gold, but some tactical stuff. Like, what are some of the common mistakes you see that people make to you when they first get started with real estate investing? Yeah,
number one thing is they focus on the wrong things, right? And I'm going to talk about the things they focus on. So there's 2 main things they focus on. So first, they're focusing on what to do with the deal once they find it, right? They start asking me questions like, Zach, what if I get a property under contract and they owe more than it's worth? What do I do? It's like, do you have a property under contract? No. Are you talking to any sellers? No. Okay, you're worried around the wrong things. Or they're like, hey, Zach, I want to learn about how to flip houses. Okay, do you have any sellers? Do you have any properties that you could potentially buy? No. Okay, you're worried about the wrong things. Or they go, Zach, I want to build a giant portfolio of rentals, and I want to learn about how to accumulate people's money and, get private financing and learn how to get people's 401k money and build this giant portfolio. It's like, okay, do you have any leads on good investments that you could put their money into? No. Oh, okay. Like they put the cart before the horse.
Yes.
Always.
I hear that
always,
all the time. I'll speak at RIAs, and that's what I hear. That stuff. It's like, well, do you have what are you doing? Do you have anybody to talk to about that? You have a lead? No.
Yep.
Okay.
So if anyone's watching this, you want to get into real estate investing, the first piece is not your logo. It's not getting a cool shirt and cool hats. It's not getting an LLC. It's not getting business cards. It's not getting a website. It's not learning about what to do with the deal once you find it, which is, yes, important. All these things are important. What's important is finding people that want to sell their house for speed and convenience, that they're willing to sell their house at a discount. Because if you can get good at that, right, then you can get a discounted property, and then, oh, this house, I am going to be able to get it at a discount, but it has fire damage. Now what do I do? Well, now you got to learn about fire damage, right? Or, oh, this house has no equity. It's under contract for this amount, but they owe more than it's worth. Now what do I do, Zach? Right? Like you learn as you go. It's progress, not perfection. It's taking massive action, right? All these gurus talk about it, but the problem is a lot of people don't know in real estate where they need to be putting their action when they first start. So that's a number one thing, is working on the wrong things when they first start.
That is so true. And so that leads me to what you're saying they need to focus on. Let's take it from a marketing standpoint, is lead generation.
Yes.
Is like number one. And so for a couple of things that you mentioned, just so I want to kind of, if you're listening, you should be taking notes, is he talked about, and it got saturated where Zach is, but it may not be where you live if you're listening to this, the eviction, the code violations, and postcards. So he mentioned that, and then he mentioned driving for dollars.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways. There's lots of ways to find discounted properties, right? And if you start to research that, you can watch YouTube videos on it. You can watch lots of free information, right? Mm-hmm. It'll be information overload. It'll be drinking from a fire hose. Mm-hmm. And so you can do things like radio ads, you can do TV ads, billboards, things called bandit signs, the little signs you put on the street corner. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's lots of ways you can call for sale by owners, or you call them FSBOs, right? You can do lots of things. There's lots of strategies out there. But I talk about the number one marketing strategy, the best way to find off market discounted properties, where you have way less competition, you control the list, you can scale it, you can start with a very small budget. It's the best marketing channel for beginning, never done a deal investors to someone that has $1 million company that wants to add another marketing channel. It is driving for dollars. And I actually have a webinar where I go into depth on driving for dollars, why it's the best, right? And they can get access to that through my website. It's dfdmastery.com. Mm-hmm. So if you guys want to like deep dive driving for dollars and how it works and how you can find leads, like that's why I have that webinar, right? To help you guys get started there.
That's awesome. I know another reason why I work, it's disguised as work. You know what I mean? And you mean I got to talk to somebody? I just want to leave signs out and have people call me. Well, you should do some of that too. But like I'll teach you in marketing for financial services people. Sometimes you have to do direct outreach, figure out the people that you want to meet and call them. And pick up the phone and call them or make direct contact. And so, short distance between 2 points is a straight line. And so you see it and you're going to, what's that saying? You got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince. Yeah. Or princess, that's kind of sounds like what you're describing to me. Okay. So we're going to have DFD Mastery in the show notes.com.
Yep. I was just going to say that, yes, driving for dollars. Originally, when I started, I was doing it all because I was broke, right? Mm-hmm. I had to produce revenue. I had to produce money. I wasn't worried about my brand. I wasn't worried about my logo. I wasn't worried about a website. Like none of that mattered. What mattered is getting in front of people that wanted to sell their house for speed and convenience. Right. And the best way that I knew how to do that was driving for dollars. So it required a lot of hustle. Right. But I've built this into a marketing system where I don't do any of it. right? I literally spend 3-4 hours a week in my wholesaling investment company, right? I have a team. I have it done for me. I have a driver that drives for me. Everyone does it all at this point, and I just get paid because I own the business.
I like that. So,
right. But yes, it requires some hustle up front.
But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's, if you listen, because what you should find so exciting about what Zack's saying, if you're starting out with no money or you're in debt, but you're willing to work, he just threw you a life preserver. You fell overboard and he just threw you. Here's how you can.
I just threw you a yacht. I just threw you a yacht.
So I don't want y'all to, just because it's disguised as hard work, I don't want y'all to miss this. Okay. He gave you. Oh, go ahead. Sometimes I got to stop and go, listen, ahead. You hear what he just told you? So, right. And what about, we talked about ways to find them and I get with you, you'll learn more. See, so now you've done some work, you found them. I think one of the last things I was going to ask you is, once you find a discounted property, how do you implement, I guess, the perfect exit strategy to make the most money? Is that an appropriate question?
Yeah, that's a good question. So really, like, what do you do once you do find a discounted property? Okay, you're saying that's the first step. Now, what's the second step? Yeah. The problem is so many people are so worried about second, third, fourth, fifth step.
Yes.
They spend all the time researching all those steps before they take step number one. Right. So my second mentor, the reason I love him and appreciate him so much is he gave me step one. He said, get started. And then he gave me step two and he said, get started. And he gave me step three, get started. And I did step four and I was successful. I don't want to overwhelm anyone with what you do. I will say is if you find a discounted property, you do not need to have money to make money off of it. Right? You do not have to have a ton of expertise to get started. And that's always the biggest fear that people have is if I go and spend money and time and effort to find a discounted property, what do I do with it? I tell you this, if you go out and get started with Driving for Dollars, if you go watch my webinar, you're producing leads, you send me a message on Facebook Messenger, I did what you said, I have a lead, what the hell do I do with it? I will get on the phone with you. That is my promise. Free of charge.
There you go.
So, and because I know if you're successful, that's going to inspire other people to be successful. And if you're successful, I'm successful, right? My main focus and goal is to make you a successful investor. Most mentors and gurus, they're always just focused on their funnel and what works, what's going to make money. How do I turn this into a business? And yes, of course, I have to make money as a mentor, right? Because I have a team and I'm trying to build a business around this so I can make a biggest impact possible. But my main focus as a mentor is to get you to be successful. So much so that I actually want to tell you guys about a project I have going right now. The other night I was in my bed, like I couldn't sleep because I was thinking like, how do I get more people to trust me? How do I get more people to believe not in me so much, but in themselves in this process that they can do it too, right? That I'm no one special. I was just a freaking window cleaner, right? Like how can I get them to take those crazy action steps that I took so they can have the same results? Right. So I was like, okay, well, how do I show them that it's possible? And it's like, well, why don't I just show them? And so what I'm going to do is I'm flying to Florida in January. I've just recently picked the market. We're going to fly into Tampa. And I picked Tampa because it's really close to Florida, or not to Florida. It's in Florida. It's really close to Disneyland. And plus it's on the Gulf side, which I really enjoy.
That makes up for me calling you Jack, right?
Yeah. And it's sunny and I'm going to get out of the cold weather. Like it's not necessarily the market because I have students from New York to California doing deals. I have them all over the place, right? So the market wasn't necessarily like, where can I be successful? Because I can be successful anywhere. But I picked the market for the sunshine, but I'm going to have a film crew follow me around. And my goal is to make $40,000 in 40 days. And I get to start with $1,000. And so I'm going to a place that I not established, that I haven't ever personally done deals. I'm going to go out and do it, and I'm going to show it 100%. And give everyone the tools and everything they need to get started. It's all going to be documented for free in my YouTube channel.
That is awesome. I think mostly on our first channel to see that, because what you will see is that security, there's no security, there's only opportunity. And security is really the ability to produce. So Zack has knowledge, which gives him a lot of confidence that if you dropped him off in the middle of nowhere with basically no money, he could make money. Okay. And so how would that make you feel you were listening to this? You know, what kind of confidence would that do for you? How would your anxiety level be if you knew if you were part-time and somebody let you go from work, you could go out there and you could still feed your family? That's what Zach's trying to tell you.
Amen. Amen. No, it's so true. Like just the, I mean, there's so much you get from being successful at this level, right? You get the financial freedom, right? You can pay off debts. You can pay for your house. You know, we're currently building our dream home right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I took my real estate expertise and went door knocking and found this piece of land in my dream area that there's just no land available. Talked him into selling me an acre and putting this beautiful dream home. It's got like 1,300 square feet of just garage space. Like that's bigger than like any house I've lived in ever.
Right.
I don't say this to brag, but like that's pretty cool to be able to do that for you and your family, right? And then
in 2017, he was broke. And we're halfway through a pandemic. Okay. And so most of that, I'm sure you still have done deals doing. Let me ask you, this is kind of I don't know, maybe a hardball question, because I think people, like one of the things with wholesaling, I think you've kind of dispelled that. Like I'm in Philly, everybody in Philly wholesaling this and that. And I've wondered, there's no such thing as saturation, but is the low, like everybody, even the sellers have heard of it. And it's hard to get those discounted deals, because even if they want it, they want to hold out because they want more money because they think they know what you're doing.
That's the thing. Like, that's why most people don't try, is they think, oh, it's too competitive. I can't do it. Okay, it can't be done in California. And you can go to my YouTube channel and see all my successful students. I have students in Southern California, supposedly the most competitive market in the country. A fireman. Just recently I uploaded this one. He was a fireman and now he's absolutely crushing it. Right? I think his first few months he made 80 grand.
Wow.
Right? I mean,
I hear that. That's why I want you to bring that out. I hear that. I might.
Oh yeah. It's one of the number one. It's the number one rejection, right? That I get. Like, oh, that's great, Zach, but your market's different. Like, it's just too competitive here. Right. And it's like, that's crazy town. So I actually have a video on my YouTube channel as well that shows you the size of your market. So there's a free activity. You can go in and figure out exactly how many investment deals are done in your market. Wow. So my average assignment fee is about $30,000. So $30,000 a deal is what I average at this point. And for me to make $1 million, I need less than 1% of the real estate deals done in my state. Wow. Less than 1%. My state is pretty much my whole market because Utah is like very little population, right? So, so I need less than 1% to do $1 million. So how many investors does that support?
A lot.
Less than 1%. It's like
less than 1%.
It was like 0.4 something percent.
Yeah. So saturation is mathematically impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. And then the other thing too is you add in a very good marketing system like driving for dollars, which is one of the main things I teach my students that makes them successful in competitive markets. There's no competition. It's just not. Like my students are spending less than 10 cents to make $1. Like if you sat down in Vegas, you sat down a lottery machine and you put 10 cents and $1 popped out. And then you threw in $1 and $10 popped out. And then you threw in $10 and $100 popped out. And you threw that $100 in and $1,000 popped in. And you threw in that $1,000 and $10,000 popped out. Are you ever going to get up and leave? Ever?
Absolutely not. No, I'm asking.
You would
never bring me lunch, dinner, and breakfast.
It would be popping caffeine.
Right. Yeah. I'm
you
not tired. I'm holding it.
You would not leave that money.
That's right. I wouldn't leave.
And that's what I teach my students, right? I help them put together a money machine. And so yes, there is competition, but guess what? That just means that there's money to be made. If there's other investors where you live, then you can do this. If there's someone wholesaling and is successful, if there's someone flipping houses and is successful, someone's buying investments and holding them, then you can do this in your market. Period.
Because even if you apply that to other businesses, if there's nobody doing it and making money, that means there's no deal flow there. Like it's not an opportunity there. So you got to, you know what I mean? You You can tell Pioneer because they have the ones with the arrows in their back. Like you don't want to be a Pioneer, right? You want to lean into that, figure out, a system that Zack will teach you, strategy where you can be competitive in that marketplace where you can stand out. Zack, man, I could talk to you all day. Tell them anything I didn't ask you that I should ask you, and then I want you to tell them where they can, how they should reach out to you and touch base and plug into this great stuff that you've shared with us.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Great questions. I feel like we've covered a ton of content. More than anything, if you get anything out of this entire interview, I want you to understand, regardless of where you've come from, regardless of where you're at financially right now, you can have financial freedom, period. Like there is no obstacle that can't be overcome for you to be successful. If you have any desire to be successful, if you get jealous at all over hearing about someone's financial success, right? If that bothers you at all, then you want this, right? And you have an obligation to go for it. This is the only life you have to live that we know of. Yeah. So I would like to invite you guys to jump and go for it, right? To go for your dreams. So I'm going to say that. And if you want to learn more, I have a lot of free resources, YouTube channels, social media, lots of places that you can learn more and get a ton of value without having to pay any money. So you can go to dfdmastery.com, which is my website. You can check out all of our free resources as well as the courses that we have to offer. And we're constantly adding more stuff daily. So, and then also if you guys want to just say hi, say you came to me through this channel, send me a message to Facebook Messenger. That'd be awesome. But the main website is dfdmastery.com.
All right. Tell him you heard him. You heard him on the Practical Wealth Show, just so he knows that here we're getting some reach. So
cool.
And all right, cool. So listen, we're gonna have all of Zack's in the show notes, and so folks, go take action. Take action. This stuff. Get some education, some verbiage, and then you've got to start with step one. Don't overthink it. Get a lead. If you get, like I said, if you get stuck, call him. He'll help you get it closed. Why? Because you that's what he's working for. Zack is financially independent, so he's gracious enough to get out here and share it. Yes, he has some courses, but you're seeing givers get, right? And so you've got to, because money follows value. So you only make money if you create value in the marketplace first, right? Is how entrepreneurs make money. So I'm thankful for Zack I thank you again for being on the show and dropping some gold on our listeners today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, my pleasure. All right, guys, go out there, make it a profitable day. Listen, like, and share. Curtis out.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must